In back of Craigville Beach lies a hidden village. Many Cape Codders don't know it exists. This tiny town has slept the large part of every year since it was born. Waking up only in the golden summer months. Now this Rip Van Winkle village is shaking its sleepy head like a shaggy bear and emerging into a busy life all through the year. It hibernates no longer. When this little hamlet began, great men walked its paths. There were literary, educational, and spiritual giants that launched far-reaching ideas, which even now throw ripples and eddies into our time. One was the Reverend Dr. Austin Craig, for whom the village was named. He was a friend of Horace Mann, great Massachusetts educator and first president of Antioch College. Craig followed Mann as president of Antioch and pulled the college out of its financial mire. When he left Antioch and took a church in this area, his denomination gave him the task of finding a conference site for the Christian churches of New England. In 1872, when he and his committee found the Perry Farm, which encompassed Craigville as we know it today, their search was ended. A great tent was erected for a meeting place. 2 others were placed near the site of the present Craigville Inn, and one served as a dining hall and the other was a lodging tent. Families erected small tents on little plots. Then all was ready for the first 10-day camp meeting, which drew folks from far and near. The Cape was crowded with horses and buggies heading here. The steam locomotive from off Cape puffed into Hyannis with capacity loads. From there, John Bierce's barge and carriages transported people to Craigville. The Christian Camp Meeting Association had started its century-long path of service. In its early heyday, Craigville was like a village in fairyland. Buildings had replaced tents. Tiny gingerbread houses surrounded an oval green, which boasted the pretentious name of Central Park. A minute post office and Samuel Hallett's miniature store faced on the park. A white-framed tabernacle looked down from its commanding position on Christian Hill. Craigville Inn and the now long-gone Chequaquet Inn also faced the green. Horse-drawn carriages traveled down gravel paths between the Lily Pond and the Chequaquet River to the bluff. This was appropriately named Prospect Park, since it had a breathtaking view of Nantucket Sound stretching from Weano to Squaw Island in Hyannisport. One delightful path was Pleasant Avenue, now known as the Midway. In the early days, the hooves of horses pulling the bakery, fish, and milk wagons caused such clouds of dust to arise that the road was closed to all but walkers. From the pavilion on the bluff, one could stroll down long stairs and a boardwalk to the world-famous Craigville Beach. At night, the lamplighter Horace Sturgis kept post lamps burning brightly. Mail was brought to the postage stamp-sized post office by pullover. This method of travel was used by the postmaster when he stepped into a boat and pulled himself by a rope across the Chequaquet River from Centerville. There was no bridge connecting Centerville and Craigville in those days. Aside from tabernacle services, life was enlivened by band concerts, crabbing parties, bacon bats, porch parties, barbecues, marshmallow roasts, cakewalks, tennis and croquet tournaments, and community sings. Occasionally, one of the Groves brothers, prominent layman in the Christian denomination, opened his house, now the lodge, for a social or the inn-sponsored concert and talented guests entertained. Other great men followed Dr. Craig to the tiny summer village. It was in Lily Pond, still famous for its pure white water lilies, that Dr. Louise Agassiz found a rare pink specimen. It was down Craigville paths that the poet Henry Van Dyke found inspiration. In his salute to the trees, he reflected thoughts that came to him as he trod under stately pines that flourished in Craigville before the great hurricane laid them low. Noted educators came, as each summer religious education conferences were held. One week-long conference boasted a faculty made up of the presidents of Elon and Defiance colleges, as well as professors from Yale, Wellesley, and Bangor Seminary. This rich heritage echoed from the past when the literary greats of today gathered for the Writers' Conference, and when some of America's outstanding church leaders preached at the open-sided tabernacle. Many reminisced about old Big Sunday, the high point in attendance at Craigville, when in recent years the Cape Cod Council of Churches had its tremendous services each August, and hundreds of cars sped towards Craigville from on and off the Cape. Throughout its century of history, at no time has Craigville been greater than when it forwarded the cause of church union. The Congregational and the Christian churches had been exploring a merger, but it was not until Dr. Martin Somervell invited Dr. Ward, editor of the Old Congregational Independent, 4 Christian church representatives and 2 Congregational representatives to meet in his Craigville cottage in 1897 that the first proposal was made. Known as the Craigville Proposal, it paved the way for the eventual merger of the 2 denominations. In recent years, this same denomination was merged with the Evangelical and Reformed Church to become the United Church of Christ. At this writing, this same United Church of Christ is considering overtures with several other major denominations. What great pines grew from little cones in Craigville. Craigville, now shortly entering its 2nd century, will sleep no more each winter. The Massachusetts Congregational Church Conference and the Christian Camp Meeting Association look forward to Craigville as a year-round mecca for inspiration and education. It is a year-round conference site, and in the summer the guest season is added. The dream of the past is being realized as week after week college, university, charitable and religious groups hold retreats and conferences, then go away refreshed and ready for life in the workaday world. The Barnstable town history expresses it well. As we sit under our gay umbrellas on this beautiful beach, we thankfully turn our hearts for a moment to that band of ministers who in 1872 shut the doors of their homes in Providence, Fall River, or Boston and went to camp meeting at Craigville.